I was 12 years old the first time I thought about killing myself. You see, I knew that stupid rhyme about sticks and stones, and I'd never broken a bone, but one time I slammed my finger in the car door, and I can promise you that my best friend telling me I didn't deserve to live hurt so much more. Because one day, broken bones would be healed, but the school hallway was a battlefield day after day, and no amount of ducking and dodging could ever shield you away from the missiles postmarked with your name, leaving words like ugly, unloved, and worthless lodged inside your brain. But when the smoke had cleared and 3 o'clock neared, I walked home in the pouring rain, praying I would drown in the storm with the weight of the day pulling down on my ankles. And when I got home, I curled up on the couch like a question mark. A Google search for, does it ever get better or does it just get more bitter? And I'm not feeling very lucky because it feels like the only thing that comes after winter are bee stings and poison ivy. So I ran to my social media outlet, but I'd often forget that my space was now our space, and it just became another place where the insults and threats could come pouring in. I was 12 years old the first time I realized I didn't have to kill myself if I could just live like everyone else. You see, I knew that stupid rhyme about how you should always be yourself because your mind is what matters, but that was for people who weren't afraid to look in the mirror out of fear that it would shatter. So I started dressing like this and doing my makeup like that. I even stopped eating in hopes that I might get a ring from a boy one day instead of stealing Saturns to use as a belt. And I suppose no one ever coerced me into doing so, although it's what I saw photo after photo, post after post, that most people aren't going to flock to the cream of the crop, but they'll open the can and eat the bland, the artificial, and the typical. So who I wanted to be was exactly who society expected me to be, because at 12 years old, I didn't understand there could be a difference. Social media became a socially accepted idea of me, and that might say more about how my mind works than it does about the dangers of Facebook, but that's because the internet isn't entirely dangerous. At least not until you start considering your life meaningless and hollow just because you're not getting likes and follows. When we get on Instagram, we see a fam that is tight and a squad that is goals, but we often forget that our phones control what we see, that the input was carefully selected, thoughtfully edited, and wrongfully descripted with crossed fingers in hopes that the output might be a thumbs up. But the posts won't quit, and who cares if we're faking it as long as we're remaining relevant? We stare at our screens as if every day is a routine until we look back and realize we have nothing to show for our lives except for dozens of selfies and memes. Deep in the night, we'll press continue watching until we become the Walking Dead, mindlessly starving because society was lying to us when they said that numbers mattered more than content, and yet we're still content with diving into that black hole head first because orange is the new whatever, and keeping up with whoever means we'll never have to be alone. We'll convince ourselves that the only friends we need are Monica, Ross, and Rachel, and yet it's still painful when we check Snapchat and see, look at all those people having fun without me. The internet has created friendships across cities and platforms across countries, but it has completely dismantled my state of mind. I fell into its trap before I could acknowledge the gap between evolution and resolution, before I could acknowledge that a computer screen could not define who I was or determine the person I'd be, because when it came to me, I was a pro, not a profile, that I was worthwhile and in style regardless of the World Wide Web. Why are we willingly feeding off fabrications and misrepresentations as if we don't see the correlation between that and our starvation? Why do we need a hashtag to remind us that a life matters? Why are we okay when the chatter dies down and as long as the clatter of our keyboards fill the silence? Our reliance is becoming an entrance for a virus that even a firewall can't fix, and I'm here to say that it's time to look up. Imagine the view of the world when you're not seeing it through someone else's lens, and I can guarantee that reality is so much better than 3D, so just look up. Imagine untangling yourself from the web and weaving together hearts and genuine relationships instead. So just look up. I know it sounds crazy, but what if I told you that LIFE is more important than an HTTP? It's time to look up.